You got my outline, right?
I got it.
Ready?
You're ready.
Hello and welcome back to the Waco Trib Super Syntax Friday Night Lights podcast featuring sports editor Bryce Cherry and myself, Chad Conine. Bryce, that title gets longer every week, doesn't it?
It does. I
add a few more words to it.
I suspect it'll change names a few more times before the season.
I wonder. It also like just a way for me to shamelessly say the Republic of. I get to throw the Republic of Football in there. You know, TF tried to steal my title name for a podcast. I don't know if that still exists. They didn't steal it. They asked my permission, and my editors told me that I don't have the rights to those 5 words anywhere, 4 words anyway. So.
Well, there you go. A little bit of behind the scenes stuff there. Last year we had Max Olson of The Athletic on our One True podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And afterwards, he got back to us and was like, guys, I'm sorry. I did not know that was the name of y'all's podcast. We just started a Big 12 podcast called One True Pod. So we were like, whatever.
Yeah. Sooner or later, you're going to have like podcast gangs, and fighting over podcast naming turf, I suppose.
Yeah. Let's talk about
nothing like starting way off the rails.
Yeah. Indeed.
Let's bring it back into some actual football. The Chilton Pirates I wrote about for Sunday's paper have been really impressive so far this season. They beat Italy by a point after losing by like 40 to Italy last year. Then they play 2A D1 ranked Normangee last week and just beat the crud out of them, 37-0. So my question to you then, Bryce, is if they're the bar, is anybody over the bar? And it's either, the impressive bar or the surprising bar.
I'd say they are among the most impressive and most surprising teams, but are they the most impressive? No. Are they the most surprising? No. And that's because, to me, more impressive right now are Mart and Live Oak, who look like they're going to win their respective divisions. Certainly, we know all about the Mart Panthers and what they've done in recent years, and basically a loss, an upset loss away from potentially going for 5 in a row right now. As for Live Oak, I think they're clearly the class of their TAPS 6-man division this year, and looking like a prohibitive state championship favorite. That win over Blum to me was eye-opening, because Blum's got a team that went to the how far did they go?
1A D1 championship game last year and won it the year before.
I want to say state semifinals last year.
Okay, that's right.
Lost to May in that shootout game. It was like 92-86 or something insane. Which
insane for regular football, sort of like,
Yeah, that's sad, but you talk to any 6-man coach and they'll tell you the importance of defense. And one thing that Cooper Thornhill, when I talked to him leading into the Live Oak game, that's Blum's coach, he said they spent basically the entire offseason on defense. He said, we're not going to lose like that again. I mean, I vowed to myself. And then as far as more surprising teams, this might be debatable to you. We'll see. I feel like Riesel is more surprising, and here's why I say that. Breaking in a new coach, and they come out of the gates with wins over Marlin and Hamilton, not world-beating programs, but certainly games that Riesel, might have lost in the past. Obviously last week, they get a game canceled because of COVID issues. To me, the big test for Riesel this week is, it is this week against Bosqueville. That's a step up in competition from what they've played so far. But like I said, I didn't see that coming out of Riesel with a fairly late transition to a new head coach. I just, I didn't see that on the map for the Indians. But all that said, back to Chilton. You're absolutely right that the wins they have are legit wins. I mean, you mentioned what they did last year against Italy, and then not just to beat Normangee, but to shut them out, And I think one of the things that made those Chilton teams of like the late 2000s, so special. Obviously, they had playmakers, and I think they were all named Landrum. They could zip here, zip there, and they could score in a hurry. But they shut teams down with their defense. And Chris James, I mean, when he played at Chilton at the turn of the century, I mean, he was an excellent linebacker, one of the best around here. And I'm sure that's where he's wanted to get this program, is that kind of level of defense. That's something that honestly is overlooked at Mart a lot of times, just how
good their defense is.
How much of a shutdown defense there is, just because they can put up so many points that you tend to just overlook the defense. And so you're absolutely right. That win over Normangee is eye-opening, and the Pirates should be a team to watch. You hit on it in your column. Can they compete with Mart in that district? We'll see. That's the big question.
Yeah, I was texting with one of the TV guys in town this week, and I was throwing out the idea that maybe Chris James should have been the David Campbell's Texas Football Coach of the Week in 2A. As it was Ruben Torres and Marlin, and I mean he's done a good job in keeping that thing on track.
Well, and I think a lot of times, and maybe I just mentioned it with Riesel, we tend to be more impressed with the new guy.
Yeah, sure.
Because they're the ones that are changing things.
Right. They're trying to establish a culture in a hurry, and that's hard to do. But when in this text message conversation, it was Jack, and Jack said, "Hey, Chilton might go 9-1." He was like, "Yeah, they probably will go 9-1, and they have the potential to go 12-2, right?"
Yeah, and you're sitting there mentioning the one or the two, talking about Mart. I mean, and there's no shame in being second best to Mart, but that is the gap. I think that if you're talking about the bar, let's always start the bar at Mart.
Right. So yeah, I think that game is October 8th. So we're all want to be that night.
No doubt.
That'll be a district game. Another district starts this week, 11-6A. At the theoretical top of that district, I don't even know if it's even theoretical. It's just the way it is Duncanville plays DeSoto to start district play. Locally, Waco High hosts Mansfield, Midway hosts Waxahachie. Now, what's crazy? Week 5 of the season is the last Friday night in September. I mean, isn't that weird? You have 11-week regular season. Almost half of it's done by the end of September.
Yeah,
it's always that way, but it always feels strange.
Well, it does, and it always seems to fly by. And yeah, I mean, it doesn't take long for you to get basically into the thick of district play and start playing meaningful football games. And here we've got it.
So September 17th is a make or break week for the Lions and Panthers.
Yes, for Midway, no for Waco High, and here's why I say that. I don't think Waco High at this stage of the game, Lyndon Helt's first year, is a legitimate playoff contender. I think, we've talked about it before, but hopefully the attendance numbers break in Waco High's favor, and this next realignment come February, they're able to dip that back down to 5A. I think that would help the Lions. That doesn't always mean, generate automatic success by any means, but Johnny Tusa always used to say, I'd rather be the big fish in the small pond than the, vice versa. So for me, Waco High, one of the things that Lyndon Helt talked about in an interview I did with him this summer was just, I want to say he called it basically progressional improvement throughout the year. You want to see your team getting better, improving. And, I just don't feel like they're going to be competing for a playoff spot this year. As for Midway, that's something that Shane Anderson has, and I'm sure they have it on Waco High's goal board too, but I think Midway is closer to making the playoffs. And when I say that, I'm talking about maybe that 4th place spot. And so, yes, I do feel like this right now, this week feels like the most winnable game thus far for the Midway Panthers. That's not to take anything away from Waxahachie, but they've, Midway started out with a good Round Rock team, and then played
they're in the top 25 in 6A now.
Yeah, played a good Permian team after that went to the playoffs last year. Played a South Grand Prairie team that's where Lyndon Helt came from, correct? And I think they led their district last year in fewest points allowed. And you saw that last week. It was a little bit more of a defensive game, the Midway game. And you also saw Midway make some strides defensively after really just bleeding points the first 2 weeks. So I like the Panthers in this game. I am hearing some reports that they're dealing with some injuries. That's out of my household. I have one in the Midway program. And so they've got a few guys banged up, including it sounds like Junior Thornton, who, Central Texas is a leading receiver. I think Dom Hill is a little banged up as well. So talking about 2 of your top playmakers right there. That's a little concerning for Midway. We'll talk to Shane Anderson. I'm supposed to talk to him this week, and I'll find out maybe what the status of those guys are.
Well, when you look at, you mentioned Waxahachie, and I just pulled up their schedule results. They haven't scored more than 28 points in the game. They're 2-1 with wins over Rowlett and Lamar. They lost last week by a point to Ennis in overtime, but they don't look like an offensive juggernaut, which, that might I'm not going to say it favors Midway, but if you look up and Waxahachie is scoring 45 points a game, you're thinking, this is going to be trouble.
But one thing Midway has shown an ability to do, at least they did in those first 2 games, was score some points.
Right. Well, I think maybe in the South Grand Prairie game, if they could have, gotten out of their own way, mistakes-wise on offense more, that they, had a chance to win that game, like it was there for them. I stated goal to, have a shot at making the playoffs, be in the postseason. It's going to be real hard if they don't win on Friday, and they need, they need to find a way to create some positive momentum. And if they're missing, in particular, Junior Thornton, if they're missing him, they're going to have to find some guys. They're going to have to start using some guys they hadn't been using, maybe. So.
Yeah. And, within that Midway program, I mean, I do feel like you still have the capability of finding some playmakers or guys that are good, but you have guys that are good, then you have guys like Junior Thornton who are, really, really good. So.
Right. Well, and for a new coaching staff to take over in June, and we'll probably as much as we talk about Midway, we'll probably continue to talk about this, but for a new coaching staff to take over in June and get all the pieces in place to compete with the kind of teams on their schedule is a really difficult task.
It is. And, I think I've said it on a variety of podcasts over the years. I feel like when you bring in a new coaching staff, you can't judge them on that first season. And especially like you said, if they're taking over as late as they are, you didn't get to go through spring drills with these guys. You didn't, you're still learning who you have, and who's the playmakers. And so all of that takes time.
So I feel like we're all but obligated to talk about la-vega-Argyle this week. It's one of the big matchups on our schedule these days. I don't know. It feels like they played a dozen times since I've been back at the Trib, on staff since 2019. But on paper, this one doesn't look as, Clash of the Titans-y as some of the past ones have. Maybe because, la-vega's coming off a loss and Argyle's 3-0 and number one. But the appeal's still there, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's still the game of the week. And let's face it, these two programs have been, the class of Class 4A for several years now. They've staged a lot of good games. They've met in the regular season. They've met in the playoffs. It's become, to me, la-vega's biggest non-district rival. I mean, couldn't you say that? They seem to play them every year. I think Don Hyde appreciates stretching his team with high quality opponents. We saw la-vega last year. I mean, they played Murderers Row in non-district, it was just one top 10 team after another. Now they're getting back-to-back top 10 teams. They played Austin LBJ last week, and that was a rough loss for la-vega. I'm not sure, obviously they looked like, they looked unbelievable the first couple weeks, but those opponents were overmatched. It was Katie Jordan and then Bishop Dunn. LBJ was on another level. They made the state semifinals last year. So maybe that exposes some things for la-vega. I certainly, even though I think, you can clearly pinpoint Argyle as the favorite in this matchup this week, I don't think la-vega is a team to be trifled with, a team to be overlooked. They're gonna examine that film from the LBJ game. They're gonna see where they need to get better. They've still got some horses over there. They're known for playing tough, rugged, physical defense. They're known for running the ball. That was, that did not go well last week. They basically did nothing in the second half offensively. And so they've got to figure out some things there, but that Hyde and Leroy Coleman and those guys will pinpoint some of those things in practice this week that they need to, improve on.
Okay. Yeah. But here's the thing. The regular season game between these two teams, and I think 3 years in a row they played in the regular season and the postseason, or at least 2 years in a row.
I'd have to go back and look, but
yeah, and Argyle's had the upper hand in the regular season game. It's when they get to the postseason and you've got 12, 14 weeks of coaching kids up, and you get into that playoff football thing, and la-vega is the tougher team at that point in the season, and they've won the important one. Now you get another regular season game, and Argyle is flying, baby. They scored 45 points against Nolan Catholic, 62 points on Pleasant Grove, and last week they beat Salina 23-0. So I'll be out there covering it, and every minute that it's still a competitive game, I'll just be okay, good.
Yeah, like I said, Argyle is the favorite and should be. I mean, and may very well win. And that won't surprise us. And they might win by, more than one score. Let's just put it like that. that said, what I was getting at with the adjustment thing, first of all, I think Don Hyde has done a very smart thing. And I mean, everyone tries to surround themselves with excellent coaches. Don Hyde really did it at la-vega. I mean, you know, and I don't remember who said it. Maybe he did, but I've heard at least one of our local coaches say how important it is to have a head coach, a former head coach on your coaching staff. Well, Hyde has that in Leroy Coleman, who coached, you know, to a lot of success, especially comparatively speaking to what university is going through more in the 21st century. And then Mike Cadell had some good teams at Axtell. So Mike tried to retire, and I saw him recently, and I said, "Yeah, how's the roofing business going?" He said, "It's going fine." I said, "You're not coaching anymore." "Oh, well, no, Hyde pulled me back in." You know, he said, "Just come out for practice." I mean, both he and Leroy Coleman have a pretty sweet gig. They don't have to teach; they just come out and coach, and then they leave. And you know, but yeah. And then another guy, I mean, that I feel like has head coach written all over him someday is Jermaine Carpenter, who, you know, is a very sharp guy, a former la-vega guy, an excellent college player, and handles all of their recruiting. And we've seen what la-vega has been able to do on signing day the last several years.
Right. Which one do you think does a better Al Pacino impression, though, Cadell or Leroy Coleman? Every time I think I'm out, they keep pulling me back in.
Okay, I get it now. That's a little bit of a foul for reaching, but and you need to work on your Pacino.
If I was doing my favorite Pacino line, I could do it a lot better, but it's not fit for family audiences.
Let's just say, "Hoorah! Hoorah!"
Best of the rest. I noticed China Springs playing Lampasas this week. That erstwhile would have been a good game. I'm not sure where Lampasas is at the minute. What else do you see out there?
Yeah, isn't what was his name? Was it Ace Whitehead? I think is he gone now from Lampasas? I feel like he is. I feel like he's graduated. To me, a very interesting game is West at Rogers. I should have mentioned West earlier when we're talking about impressive teams. I feel like they're off to a thoroughly impressive start, and you know, they've got a chance, I think, to go at least to Thanksgiving, if not, you know, a little bit deeper. But this is a legit test this week. I feel like at Rogers. Rogers always, I feel like they're well coached. They've got, you know, they've got some talent. They've certainly shown the ability to score points this year. Put up 48 last week against Whitney in a road win at Whitney. So I mean, if David Woodard's team can go into Rogers and you know, get to 4-0, I think that's a good win for West. Another game, we talked a little bit about it earlier, Bosqueville-Riesel, I feel like is an interesting game. Bosqueville probably has more talent, but again, I feel like Riesel has sort of surprised me, and so it'll be interesting to see. You know, I feel like Bosqueville will be the measuring stick for just to see how much Riesel has improved. Even a loss that they keep close, I think, would show a lot of progress for Riesel. And then, you know, I don't know why this game feels kind of interesting to me, but Gatesville and Hillsboro, you know, a couple of coaches who are trying to build those programs up. And you know, I think Luke Howard's team is making progress. Obviously, you saw them last week against Lorena. And then, you know, Coach Almute at Hillsboro's in his first year. But those are two 4A programs in our area that are, a little bit outside of Waco, but I think both of them have potential. And, whichever one wins this game, it's something to build on.
Yeah, I think Hillsboro has looked, maybe it's because they're really good about sending us their stats, but they've looked good to me, for a couple of years now. So we'll see if they can break out. Now, you mentioned West, you mentioned Lorena's big win over Gatesville the other night. Might we be lucky enough to have a later round playoff game between West and Lorena?
Oh man, that would be fun for sure. That's fun in a lot of different sports. I've seen them play volleyball and basketball, and then both of them do really well on the diamond. I mean, we know what West did under Corey Beckham, what they do in softball. They won state with Gyla Smith, there, and Lorena's got a pretty good reputation in both baseball and softball too. So I feel like that would be a really fun matchup between, two good guys, David Woodard, Ray Biles, good coaches. I'd love to see that. Play that at Waco ISD. I'm sure you would sign up for that.
For sure. Now it would have to be, I believe, the state semifinals.
Yeah, so you're talking about some pretty serious runs there. They'd have to beat some good teams to get to that point, but that's part of making a playoff run.
Yeah, I guess maybe Grandview standing in their way, among others.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, I mean, yeah, and I guess 1 and 2 play each other, right? Is it 1 versus 3 and 2 versus 4?
Talk about in the
bracket.
In the bracket. So explain to me what you're asking.
So West is reaching 1.
Yeah.
Lorena is reaching 2.
Gotcha.
So the only time they might be able to meet might be in the state championship game.
Yeah, typically it's 1 versus 2, 3 versus 4. You're correct.
So, I know the coaches are going to hate me getting this far ahead but if that were to happen, just like one little element of the TV broadcast of that game, you know how they always do, like, this team came from here and this team came from here, and this is how far it is to Cowboys or to AT&T Stadium. Well, in that case, it'd be like, well, West and Lorena are pretty much from the same spot, and it's like 90 miles from here. So.
Yeah. Well, and that would be one, we've talked about this. Obviously, we've grown accustomed to all the state games at one site. But, we've talked about it before. What would ever happen if we had that kind of a matchup, where we basically had 2 teams in our area playing for a state championship game? It would feel weird not to have that at like McLean Stadium or Waco ISD or something like that. And certainly that would be the case. That said, I mean, I think we've all just grown accustomed to the single site thing, and I don't hate it. I feel like it's really good for fans in terms of if you want to go see multiple football games, it's a great way to do that. You can just, park your butt at AT&T for several days and see a lot of great football.
Well, and it's become my favorite weekend, or my next favorite weekend behind the first weekend in the NCAA tournament in terms of sports on TV, because pretty much all day long for 3 days or 4 days, I think maybe, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, at least, maybe Wednesday through Saturday, you got state championship games, and I probably don't log as many hours watching those as I would the NCAA tournament, but it sure is entertaining, and that'll be back to normal this year, hopefully, because last year, of course, the 5A and 6As were played in January, which is kind of peculiar, but anyway, we're a long way from that. It's still in the low 90s every day, so that's jacket weather, if not coat weather, and that still feels like a long way off, even though here we are in week 4. So,
yeah, put it this way: I turned my little desk fan off for the podcast just so that it wasn't like making noise in the background, and I'm sitting here going, "All right, when can we end this so I can turn my fan back on?"
I tell you and that desk fan, you and that desk fan have been together for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it cool, man.
Right. Okay. Well, we've pretty much run the course of things. So,
all right.
Enjoy the
games. Enjoy the games.
Yep. All right. Have a good one, America.
All right. I'll send this to Win.
Cool. I'm leading the notebook with the Butch Henry broadcast booth.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. We should have some art of him.
Yep.
From his obit and stuff last year. All right. Well, I'm about to head out to Baylor volleyball interview. So
cool. They're doing Baylor tennis media availability tomorrow for some like clinic they're having, but I don't know. Maybe I'll pop by just to get to know the new media relations person for that.
Yeah, I saw where the Bryan brothers, they're kind of a name in pro tennis. I mean, pretty good doubles team, but
to be honest, I'm just kind of glad they're not asking us to get all excited about a guy who like attended class here for an X amount of time, but never played a match. Jensen Brooksby.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's hard for me to like understand how to cover that because like I'm not a fan and I'm not inclined to get all jacked up about something because he went to school here. And it's like he never played here.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. So, yeah, no, I get that.
Anyway.
I would say his ties are a little more tenuous.
Right.
Anyway, all right. Well, I'll talk to you later on.
Sounds good. Bye.
Okay, bye.